Hey guys, it's me again. And a while ago I reviewed the game Undertale, but I feel like I was kind of vague as to why I didn't like the game, and that's why I'm here now. I'm gonna talk about it with you in depth, not limited by the confines of a short review. And I'm playing with dice like any nerd. Anyway, so I feel like in my review on Steam, I kind of like said everything I needed to say there. So if you don't want to hear it and more from me right now, I suggest you go and find that. You'll know my profile when you see it. So let's start out small. So yeah, and like you guys know how I think like a couple of years ago I Let's Played Earthbound, and it was good. It wasn't a bad game, but I just kind of, I don't know, somehow got bored of it after a while, and I didn't hate Earthbound, and that's not the. I'm just saying this to as a disclaimer. The reason I didn't like Undertale is a complete different reason for why I got turned off of Earthbound. And yeah, they're kind of like similar games, but like yeah, I got bored of Earthbound, but like I could see that its heart was in the right place. I knew what it was trying to do, and it did it well, but I knew what Undertale was trying to do, but it just didn't do it well at all. And I think like kind of why I didn't think Earthbound was a spectacular game, or why I didn't like Undertale, as it was kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing to say. I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say here, but let's move on to a different topic. Just forget about Earthbound, because it has nothing to do with why I didn't like Undertale. So, first, a major, huge gripe I have with the game is, I don't know any other way to say it. The game's full of itself. Because, I don't know, maybe other games do this, but I first noticed it when I was looking at Undertale to buy it, right? I was like, this is a normal thing, look at reviews, blah, 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 blah. And I saw in the description for the game called itself soulful and character-rich. It called itself unique. And when I played the game, I just didn't see it, because I could point out 1,000 things in the game that I'd seen done before and better in another place. Every character done before, but with more depth. Every mechanic done before, more depth, better controls. It just wasn't unique at all. And just knowing that the game boasted itself, I was like, this wasn't presented as something that another person said. No, this was what the developers were saying about the game to advertise it. And for any other game that I've seen, they would, in that section, they'd be like, oh, we've got we've got it's a bullet hell game. You should play it. It's fun. And like, but no, to see that Undertale like went out of its way to be like, oh, we're the best thing ever. It just kind of made me angry, you know. And another like serious problem I had with it was in the game you play nobody. You're not a person. You're not like a knight in shining armor crusading against evil, or like a normal person who realizes that they have a heroic destiny. Frisk didn't do anything. And you could argue, well, they helped the monsters escape from the underground. They could have done that themselves. They had all the stuff that they needed. Frisk isn't anybody. They don't have a personality. They didn't do anything for anybody. They just went around basically hugging trees. That's not a hero. A hero is someone that does a great service for somebody. Someone that does the right thing. Someone who's a hero. Frisk is not a hero. They're just a sprite. And apparently like a lot of people like kind of connected with the characters, which I can't fathom, because the characters are about as one-dimensional as a character from a storyless NES game. And the game, another thing, the game advertises itself as a multiple endings, not multiple endings, as like a kind of like choose your own path thing. But there are no choices in the game that affect anything. Like Toriel will call you on the cell phone and say, "Hey, what do you like, butterscotch or cinnamon?" No matter what you answer, the result's gonna be the same. There's only two choices in the game that actually have any effect. It's kill, no kill. That's it. There's no depth to it whatsoever, and I just didn't like that the game advertised itself on doing something that it didn't even do. It's like if let's take Super Mario Brothers. It's like if they advertised themselves as being a first-person shooter, but it's a side-scrolling action game. You see what I'm saying here? And also another thing I said was that like the music was terrible, and it really was. To explain some more, all the music in the game scaled from "Oh my gosh, what am I listening to? This hurts," to mediocre, to it's okay. And it's like it got to one point I was sitting here talking to Aiden over the phone, and that's what they call it nowadays. That's what they call all their computers with Skype on it. They call them phones. But anyway, I think his cousin or brother or something was playing Undertale in the background, and he was fighting Sans, and I didn't go the genocide route, so I never fought Sans, and like the music was really loud. Of course, you can't adjust it. You have to close out of the game, go to your desktop and turn the music down, turn the whole PC down, or like use your sound mixer if you have that. And Aiden said to me, "Excuse the epic music." And I said, "What epic music? I just hear a bunch of beeps. I didn't hear anything. Like, it didn't come together. It wasn't a song. It was just a bunch of beeps, like I said." And I was like, you know, it kind of sucks. It's not epic at all. And like, in the beginning, after I played Undertale, I was like, okay, I wrote my review. I just want to be done with this game. But I couldn't. Because I'm gonna pick on Aiden again. I don't mean any offense to him. It's just, this is just stuff that actually happened. I made it very clear to him that I didn't want to talk about Undertale, and I was done with Undertale. I'm never going back. And he said, like randomly out of the blue, he starts up a conversation with me about the genocide route, and I'm like, listen, I don't want to talk about this. I really didn't like the game. Of course, I didn't say that because I was trying to be polite. And he said to me, I hear the Sans fight is really hard. And I was like, do you mean hard or unfair? Because I mentioned this in my review. At every time except key points, the game is easier than tic-tac-toe. Excuse the Steam, your friends are online sound. Excuse the epic music. Gosh, I'm a terrible person. And what was I even talking about? Alright. At certain points in the game, it's just not fair. It's like, yeah, it could be one of those fools who can't beat a game, so he starts whining about how the game's unfair. But like, the game has no sense of balance. Because it's like you're some nobody 5-year-old girl with a stick. One attack. You have one attack against basically a world full of cheaters. It's like, yeah, I beat all of them. Yeah, I won. Yeah, I beat Mediton. Yeah, I beat Muffet. Yeah, I beat Asgore. But it just wasn't fair. Because one of the few things that I actually enjoyed in the game was the fight against Asgore. And one of his attacks, seriously, he just covers the screen in fireballs. Unless you get extremely lucky, you can't dodge it. And that's not fair. It's like, why can't I get an attack like that? Why can't this be a real RPG? Why can't I have like a fireball or a sword or something to defend myself with, something other than a stick? One attack! You get one attack! You never get anything else. That one attack's not reliable at all. It's just, you press a button. There's no depth to it at all. It's like, where a normal RPG you'd have all these like skills, and you could strategize how to effectively use them. It's like oh, this skill wouldn't be effective in this situation because this attack type isn't very effective against this enemy. There's none of that good RPG depth. None. It's just, you press a button, you dodge the white stuff. Screw you. And when you're trying to be the good guy, and you gotta wait through 17 darn turns of some idiot just doing something before you can spare their freaking life that they don't deserve to keep. also, the game, on a similar note, the game forces its message down your throat. Your message of tree hugging, for lack of a better term. And, like, you know, buddy with everyone. Oh, you don't have to kill anyone! Well, they're trying to kill me! It's like, if I can't defend myself to get the good guy ending, screw you! It's like, if you're gonna make me seem like a bad person for defending myself, you've got some serious problems. Use your freaking words. Yeah. Don't fight back against the murderer who's trying to put a bullet through your head. No! Make friends with him! Screw you! It's not a good message. And it's been done before, and better. Humans are monsters are people too. Screw you! You shouldn't have called them monsters then. They could just been like a race of people with like a fantasy name, like HickaruDragon. That's a stupid name, but seriously, calling them monsters. You know what the definition of monster is? A terrible, emotionless brute. If you wanted to go for the monsters are people too thing, you should have called them something different. And a story about when I wrote my review on Steam. Like, I didn't care what the fan base did. Like, I was just like, it's just another Five Nights at Freddy's fan base. I'm just gonna ignore it, and then it won't bother me. But I gave no thought to what the reaction would be if I posted a negative review of a freaking game. Oh, the humanity! Am I right? Posting a negative review of a game that's not perfect? Gosh! That would be appalling! Not as appalling as the reaction. I posted the review. I like to think of it as an honest review. I gave pros and cons and neutralities. But Steam wants to have none of it. Within 5 minutes, I get a reply on my review. It says, "You haven't played the game enough. Go play it again and come back." You wanna know how long I played the game? 18 freaking hours! 18! 18 freaking hours of repeat. 18 freaking hours of the same thing over and over again with the same dull, boring characters with the same clunky, unfair controls with the same bland, overdone story. The same horrible humor. The same ear-pounding music. 18 hours. And I haven't played the game enough. Not enough. No. Go play 30. Go play 50. Go play 100 hours of a game you didn't like. Bull. I was called a terrible person for having an opinion for being something that they were not, for being my own person. For saying, hey, I didn't really like this. I wouldn't recommend you buy it. No. No, no, no. 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 Go play more. Play the whole game and come back. Comment deleted. Get the heck out of my house. Done. Don't come back. I don't keep a key under the door. There ain't no freaking key under that mat. You can't come back in. You're banned. Go away. Don't come back. What a world we live in, where you can't have an opinion. If you... Hey, I like Castlevania. If you don't like Castlevania, you're the devil! Ha! Look, that's what society's like. Huh. Huh. Opinions. Plahooey. People who like the game are calling the whole fan base bigots, because that's what they are. I know I'm doing the whole cliche thing where I complain about the fan base, but people agree with me. People who like the game and don't like the game, they agree with me. The fan base is crap. If you like the game, don't bother being a part of it, because they're all the same. They're all the same. There's the 50-50 line. The people who are like, oh, I like the game, but you can have your opinion. And then the other people are like, you're Hitler because you don't like Undertale. Screw you. Just don't. I was speaking with someone. I was like out in the town, and I was like hanging out with some of my friends, and I was like, I'm so glad I'm done with Undertale. I don't want to ever go back on that. And one of the freaking friends of a friend was like, I hate you. You don't like Undertale. And I'm like, what? I'm taken aback. This was before I wrote my review. This was before the whole thing. I just got done the game. I was just lamenting to a couple of friendly acquaintances about I didn't really like that game. And screw you! I'm done. Hey, you want to hear a funny joke? Undertale. Ha! It's almost as funny as that other joke I told the other day. You want to hear a joke? D&D 4th edition. It's funny. Get it? I might be overacting this a little bit, but it feels kind of good. Getting this off my chest, you know. Is that illegal too? You're gonna call the cops? Voicing my opinion is, hey officer, this idiot has an opinion, shoot him! I could talk on and on all day about me and the poor old people who have opinions and people are yelling at them for it. I could go on all day. But it's the game I don't like. Dislike for the fan base is a completely different thing. Let's talk about the game. It's not funny. I know a bunch of you just gasped like I drove a stake through your heart. It's not funny. I chuckled. That's the best. I chuckle about every 20 minutes. A joke will pop up and like, huh. Date was up with Elvis. That was funny. Yeah. Rest of the game. Bad late night commuting humor. I was playing the game. I was like, is this a game or freaking Tumblr? It's like, the humor, it's dull. It's repetitive. Try 18 freaking hours of skeleton puns. Yeah, I sat through that. I had I can't use the word determination anymore. It's tainted. I had the guts. The constitution. The vitality to live through 18 hours of freaking garbage. I had to take so many breaks just to cringe. Cringe myself right back into my freaking skull. I had to take whole breaks. Like full hour breaks in between playing. Just to look up at the ceiling and say, what the heck just happened? That's not a joke. That's a meme. Leave funny memes. What the heck was that sound even? So nice that I can humor myself in times like these. I did it! Played the game. Beat the game. Shove the game right in your face. Get out of me! Get out of my face! Get out! Screw you, Azrael Moore. Take your game with you. I'll beat you. Get out! And you can shove it. You know, I think I'm done here. I said what I needed to say. Now I need to go cool off. I'll see you guys.